Hi guys, if you remember when we were learning about React components, I had used import and export, but I did not explain how the import and export are working. And in today's tutorial, I will explain import and export modules in detail. So first of all, let me create a React component. I am just creating app.jsx, and here let we have two components, uh, two variables. First variable is fname is equal to, I am just writing here my name, and the second here is the second variable lname is equal to, you can say any random. So I took this random two variables. So now I have to export these variables. How can we export them? First of all, I have told you that if we have only one variable or one component to export, we will simply make such method default fname and make sure the spellings are same as you have mentioned at the above. And if you have multiple variables or components, we have to export in such a way that for the first variable or first component I have to use export, and the second variable I cannot use export default, because default is only used for once at any component export time. So here I am just using lname. So you can see that it is showing an error here. So what is the error? We should have to make these variables export in curly braces besides default. So now you can see that there is no error, and the first variable is exported as by default, export default fname, and the second variable, basically we have only two variables, and the second variable is exported as in curly braces and the second variable name. So control S, and let me move in my index.js folder, and in this component how can I import? As you can see that this is fname. I can use any name, it doesn't matter that it should be same as export and import. This is just a variable in which I am assigning the name. Let's say I'm namef. I'm just writing namef, and I have to make here comma. First of all, let me import only one variable from dot app. So let me make output here. I'm just using h1 tag, and inside h1 tag I have to use curly braces because these are just JS variables. So here I have to write namef, control S, and make sure your server is on, and you can see that my web server is successfully working. So I am just moving in my web browser. You can see that the name is exported here. In this variable I have exported the default name from this component. Now I have to also import the second variable, that is fname. Now here a question arises that how can we import multiple variables or multiple components? Let me make curly braces here, and besides this default I have to use all the variables import in curly braces here. So the name should be same of these variables now. Let me copy it, Control Z. I'm just copying it. Oh, this is not selected all. Control C, and I am just pasting here. Control V, and here you can see that these two variables are now imported successfully. So I can use here h1 tag, and here in curly braces I can use L name. Make sure this variable name should be same as I have exported here, and the default variable is doesn't matter, that we can have any variable and it will automatically consider that it is just pointing the default variable which is from .app component. So let me save it and show you the output. You can see that now it is showing these both outputs. So this is in the case of if we have multiple variables or components to export and import. So let me have a second example to explain in detail. Just consider we have these variables and we have two functions. I'm also explaining in the case of functions. If we have function, how can we import it and export these functions? First of all, you have to write function, and here you have to write any function name. My name, I'm just writing the function name as my name, and make the function type. And here I am just returning in curly braces ff name is equal to engineer, and you can see that now it is showing here a error. It is not basically the error, it is just showing that could not find f name. Did you mean could not find ff name? Did you mean f name? This is just saying that we have not declared this variable. So first of all, let me declare this variable const ff name. Just make me, for the simplicity, Control X, and let me make it Control X simple. I am going to make it as much simple as is possible. Control V, and here I have to write semicolon. Here I am just passing the name. You can see that there is no error, and I can have a second function, and I can have any function name, his name, or you can use any. I'm just pointing to show you that how it is basically working. LL name is equal to doctor. I'm just writing these variables. Basically I'm showing that how it is basically working, import and export. And now you might be thinking that how can it be exported. So let me minimize it so that you may understand everything clearly. Here I have to give comma, and besides this default I have every variable or component inside these braces. So these variables are separated by commas here. So I have to write here my name, and again I have to give comma, his name, and make sure you don't have to make here curly braces. That are showing that it is function. If we have only name, the React would automatically consider that these are functions. Control S, and let me import these variables here. These variables are basically not variables but just functions, comma, and here I have to write the same name. I am just copying it, Control C, and pasting here, Control V, and now these functions are also imported in index.js file, and you can see that these are dim now. The reason is because we didn't use these functions here. Whenever we use these functions, these functions would become darkened if I use, let's say I'm using my name, and make sure you have to give here braces that are showing it is function control as, and you can see that sorry, there is a mistake, so we have to use curly braces here as it is part of JS control as. And now you can see that the function is imported also. And let me have the fourth function, uh, fourth variable, which is the second function basically. And here I have to write his name and make sure it is a function control as, and you can see that now it is clearly imported. We have functions and variables that are exported and imported. So this is basically the complete structure that how import and export modules are working in React.js. I have already told you that when we have only single variable or we want a separate single variable, we can export in such a way that export default and then any name, Control Z, any name, and here I have to export, and these variables should have same, and also this should be in you can see sequence, so that we may get rid of any error and we may clearly understand that basically which function is working at the time. So this was complete import and export modules.